Good evening, folks. Sorry for being a couple of minutes late. Good evening. Hello, Graham G. Nice seeing you, mate. I hope you've sorted out that scammer that tried to get hold of you last time. I hope to have a good one. Thank you, Graham. And yeah, like I say, I hope you did sort out that scammer. I wish there was an easy way to catch these people. Gee, because there's so many people that's getting caught with stuff like that. If I go onto my TikTok profile, even if it's just once a day, and I go look for other profiles, I often pick up anything between 1 and 7, 8 new profiles. It's just unbelievable how scammers make use of this to try and scam people out of their money. Hi, good evening, Kiki. And it is so sad the amount of people that falls for it. So yeah, folks, as you're coming in, I'm just quickly talking to Graham about the scamming that goes on out there. And please be careful. Be careful. I think this is the one thing you can know is that basically anybody, many SARS scams as well. You're right, Graham. Anybody that is on any form of social media, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, if they are legit, they will not contact you first. It's like the banks. We will not contact you first. That's the first thing. The second thing is they will tell you that contact me via this WhatsApp number or go to my website or whatever the case might be. So they will tell people exactly where to go if they want to make contact with them. And in that way, you can make sure that you don't get caught out by a scammer that tries to catch you and scam you out of money. So I was a couple of minutes late, but now I see in the background the clock that we have here in our house seems to be about 5 or 6 minutes fast. Have to have to remember that. Okay, so let's see what we've got here tonight. Let's start answering a couple of people. Graham, thank you for that warning. So many SARS scams. Indeed, folks, there is all kinds of scammers out there. Social media scammers, bank scammers, you name it, it's there. Any case, Rickster, I opened an investment in a tax-free savings account there. Can I move it to like a Liberty tax-free savings account without it being withdrawn? Yes, you can indeed. And as a matter of fact, Rickster, that would be the best way to move it is to not withdraw it. Because if you withdraw it and you reinvest it, then it's actually seen as a new investment and then you will pay tax, especially if your tax-free investment already has more than 46,000 Rand in it. So what you can do is the following. You can apply through a different insurance house or investment house for a tax-free investment. And then there's a document that gets completed. So in your case, you're talking about Liberty. Liberty will have a document that gets completed and gets sent to whichever bank you had your tax-free savings account with. This bank then has to complete the section themselves to confirm that they are going to transfer the money from your tax-free savings account into your new Liberty tax-free investment. And then that document is then used and given to SARS, so that SARS has record and that they know that, listen here, the fact that there's suddenly 100,000 Rand going into a tax-free investment with Liberty is not a new contribution. It's just a transfer from one tax-free investment to another tax-free investment. And in that way, you can move your tax-free savings account to an investment that will most probably do better for you. The same goes for what they call retirement annuity moves. You can move retirement annuities from one company to another company, as well as living annuities. You can also move them. And every time the company that you're moving it to will complete documents that they send to the company you're moving it from, in order for these documents to be completed by both companies and to ensure that it is seen and acknowledged and recognized by SARS as tax-free movements between the companies. So there you go, Rickster. You can indeed do that. And if you are with a bank and a bank savings account, trust me, I think that if you move it to an investment house, Liberty, Old Mutual, Sanlam, Allen Gray, Marriott, Investec, you name it. I think you're definitely going to be better off because the interest rates that we are getting in banks are ridiculous. Having said that, our interest rates are substantially better than what people get in America and UK and other places like that. So there we go. How much is the tax on a 650,000 Rand GPF lump sum? PG? Yes, man, I'm tired. I've worked hard today. Now you want me to do mathematics this time of the evening as well. Hold on a second. I'll quickly calculate it for you. So assuming, my good sir, that you have never taken any lump sums from any other retirement annuities, pension funds, provident funds, this is the first time that you are drawing a lump sum from a pension fund, and yours is 650,000. The first 550,000 Rand is completely tax-free. So you are only being taxed on 100,000 Rand, and that's being taxed at 18%. So the tax you're going to pay, or that will be deducted, is 18,000 Rand. So you will end up with basically 600 and what's that? 628,632,000 Rand. One thing I can tell you, the chances that it's going to be exactly 650,000 is very small. That calculation always gets done literally just before retirement. Extra few days, weeks, months, whatever goes into the calculation, then you end up with more. And this happens across the board with GPF funds and any other pension funds, provident funds, retirement annuities, and preservation funds. By the time the money is actually moved, because of the time period from submission of documentation until the time that they can move it, that is normally a 4 to 6 week period, but it could be longer. And that time period actually normally means that the fund value or the value changes a little bit. Any guys, there you go. I hope that helps you. Let's see who is next and if anybody else has some questions for us. My cat is outside again. She has just heard me talking to you guys, and then she decides, listen here, I don't want to sit here. I want to also have part of this conversation. So now she's standing at the glass door, mowing for us to let her in. Anyways, let that be what it is. Skibber says, hi, how do I convince a 22-year-old who is about to start their first job to start a RA or similar? Skibber, my man, if I knew how to convince a young person to do that, and I could convince every 22-year-old to start investing, irrespective of it being a retirement annuity or anything else, if I could do that, man, I think I will be not a multimillionaire, I would be a billionaire. Because unfortunately, we are in a country, in a society where our parents and our grandparents were not educated in financial discipline. Okay, it's just the way it is. And because they were not educated in that, and because they did not work on budgets and stuff like that, it's highly unlikely that the children normally gets there. So I find that every young person that actually starts investing at a young age is fantastic. It's a bit of a miracle. What I do find these days is that, especially when people have children in the house that's growing up, a number of families has actually asked me to come and speak to their children. And I'm talking children from the age of 12 up to 18, 19, 20. So what they would do is they would invite me over. Everybody would sit in the lounge or the dining room, coffee, whatever. And then I will just tell them a bit about financial advice, and I will tell them about the statistics about retirement one day, about the amount of interest that they pay back when they buy a house and they're bonding it, etc. And in that way, educate them a bit on financial discipline and financial planning. And then when I do that, I find that normally the children listen and they take something to heart. Sometimes they do something, sometimes they don't. And I think the reason why they do that is because it's not mom and dad telling them. You know how it is, we were kids. If your mom and dad tells you something when you're that age, what do they know? They're stupid. I, as a teenager, know everything. So I don't know how to convince them but I do talk to youngsters on a regular basis, and I just try and educate them the same as what I do on these lives that I do and on my videos. I just try and educate them, and then I encourage them to go and speak to other youngsters. And I think that's all we can do. I would love to put out courses for children from the ages of 6 upwards that does not make out part of their school curriculum, because I don't think school curriculums will approve it. But I'd like to create courses like that where we educate children from a very young age on financial discipline and financial planning. And I think if I can get that done, man, I think if we can reach a lot of people, we will change the financial future of so many youngsters. And guys, that's still in the dreaming and planning stages. Nats D says, is it costly to set up a trust, especially if you have young kids? Admin fees. So Nats, it does not have to be all that expensive. Okay. Normally, a trust is going to start costing you from 8,500 Rand upwards. And the amount that it's going to cost you is going to depend on how complicated you make the trust. So a normal Intervivos trust being set up, I would say 8,500 Rand if it's done by a pretty good lawyer. 3,500 Rand, then you have to worry about the qualities of the lawyer. And it can be more expensive, but it will only be more expensive if, like I say, it becomes complicated and there's lots of rules and regulations that the trustees wants to build up in this trust. Then in terms of admin fees, so basically it's trust fees, and that very much depends on the trustees that you choose. If you make use of a trust company will normally tell you, we're going to charge you X amount as a fixed amount on a yearly basis, or we're going to charge you a percentage of the asset value of the trust, etc. But if you choose your own trustees, let's say you choose, I don't know, a family member, a friend, a lawyer, a financial advisor, somebody that's willing to act as the trustees, and they agree not to charge fees, then it doesn't cost you anything. Then the only thing it's going to cost is the actuarial statements at the end of the year that needs to be done for SARS. I set up a lot of wills, and then I nominate trustees based on what the clients ask, and I offer my services as a trustee because you are the client because we are doing your will and you are our client and we do your investments and everything like that. We then do that as a free service to our clients. And Graham, that was on earlier, who is an accountant, he is actually nominated on one of our clients. He is actually nominated as one of the trustees as well. So in the event that our client passes away, myself, Graham, and that client's wife or child, I can't remember who it was, will then act as the trustees, and that client will not pay any trust fees except for the accounting fees that will be charged and must be done. So it's absolutely going to depend on who you do it through, how much it's going to cost, and what the ongoing yearly fees is going to be is also going to depend on who you get to assist with that. Brett says, I am an expat working on rotation. Are you an expat tax specialist? Brett, I am not an expat tax specialist. Okay, so I'm not an expat tax specialist, but I've got a guy by the name of Kenneth Collin. And Kenneth is my international tax expert. So he's got his own company, but when it comes to expats, I have a reasonable understanding of how their taxes works, especially when there's dual taxation systems, especially if they do investments, etc. So I would normally advise the clients on their investments, and if there is a tax need, then I pull in Kenneth Collin, and he then handles the taxes for the clients, be that international taxes or local taxes. So personally, no, but I have a guy, if you know what I mean. I have a guy. Same as with the lawyers that I use. Don't have lawyers in the company, but I've got 2 lawyering firms that I've worked with hand in hand for many, many years. and they are even on my website, to say to people, we work hand in hand if we plan together for clients. So if you need somebody, Brett, you're welcome to let me know, and I can provide you with the contact details and refer you to Mr. Kenneth Collin. Yeah, I agree with that one, Graham. Saving education should start at school, 100%. Skibber, like the idea of a kids' course. The voortrekkers are trying to put something like that together. You know what? If the voortrekkers are trying to put something like that together, I have not dealt with any school organizations for many years. But if you know of somebody there that's doing it or that's busy doing it, they're welcome to contact me, and I'll offer my services free, gratis, and for nothing. I will come to the party and assist them, because I think, especially if you can do it through somebody like the voortrekkers, that will be fantastic, because then you already have a bit of a foothold. You already have a basis that you can work from. So welcome to put them in contact with me, okay? Let's see what's next. Good evening, everybody. Just while I'm scrolling and looking for the next question, I just want to say good evening to everybody. I would love to name everybody by name, but unfortunately there's just too many people that comes in, comes out. So I cannot do that. Oh, cannot be serious. I've now answered a couple of questions and suddenly it seems like that was the questions. I cannot be that good tonight. I cannot be this good tonight, folks. I'm sure there must be more questions. Let's see. Koza Nershi. I don't know if you guys saw, but I'll just quickly mention it. Our repo rate was lifted by 0.25% today. Okay, so repo rate was lifted by 0.25%. Reserve Bank has set the expectation on inflation to go from 3.7 to 4.4%. So thanks to the war situations that we have in the world and the substantial increases in oil prices, that pushes up our inflation. Higher interest rates, good for people that has money in the bank and that wants higher interest in terms of the investments. Good for international investments, especially for South Africa. If you are doing international investments, it means that the rand is a bit more protected and will actually benefit you from an asset swap point of view once the money comes back at a later stage, when interest rates go down again and when oil prices go down, which will happen. But yeah, that was something in the meantime while I'm waiting for the next question. And I see Nats D has just given us another question here. Once you've reached the 46,000 for a tax-free savings, is the interest accrued taxable? So Nats, no. The 46,000 Rand, okay, let's start there. The 46,000 Rand is the amount that you can contribute on a yearly basis. So that's the first important thing, and that is from the 1st of March every year until the 28th of February next year. In that 12-month period, you can put in 46,000 Rand. And you can keep on putting in 46,000 Rand until you get to the point where you filled up a total of 500,000 Rand. So that's 10.8 years to be exact. Then you filled up your 500,000 Rand. But from the first day that you put in your first 100 Rand into your tax-free investment, doesn't matter how much you're going to put in, but from the moment you put in your first Rand in your tax-free investment, you start earning either interest or growth, and that growth can be dividends, rental income, interest, capital growth, call it what you want. But from that day, you start earning that. And this is where the tax-free name comes in. Every cent that you earn in growth is tax-free. So that's 46,000 Rand. If you had 4,000 Rand growth for the year, it's tax-free. Over the lifetime, you put in 500,000 Rand and you leave it for 30, 40, 50 years and it grows to 8, 9, 10, 12 million Rand. Everything, every cent is tax-free. And I know when I now say 8, 9, 10, 12 million Rand, people say, it's impossible, never going to happen. It is. That is exactly what it will grow to. If you do a tax-free investment, and this is something fantastic. Now we talked about children and educating children. If as a parent you start a tax-free investment for your child at a young age, okay, and you invested until you filled up your child's 500,000 rand, and you can then convince that child not to take that money when they get to the age of 18 or older, and you can convince that child to leave that money until the day that they actually going to retire, be that 55, 60, 65. They would have earned interest and growth, especially if they're making use of a good aggressive equity fund, easily 12, 13, 14 million rand, even more. And that could be, depending on what they're going to earn during their lifetime, that could be all the money that they need for a pension fund, or a humongous portion of it. So tax-free investments is absolutely fantastic for the long term. If you do it over the short term, well, my opinion is it's absolutely useless. But over the long term, do it. Every cent of growth is tax-free. Hence the name tax-free. Okay, so now I've just given you a little bit something. I know nobody likes the idea of investing for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. But folks, if you want to retire one day comfortably, and you are not blessed enough to have your own business which grows and expands substantially, and you are going to be like the average Joe Soap that works for a company, has a pension fund, medical aid, gets the house with the 3 bedrooms, 2.5 children, etc., etc. If you're going to be an average person, which incidentally is 85%, is 85% of the world population, okay, then a tax-free investment is one of the most beautiful investments that you can use for your own provision, for your own retirement one day. And if you then do it for your children as well, man, those kids better carry you on a throne one day because of what you've given them. And that's the 46 cap is great. That will be better if it's 500 max. Yeah, no, we agree with that, Brett. The fact that they've increased the 36 to 46,000 is already fantastic, and it would be nice if the 500,000 is increased. But at least what has happened with this 36,000 to 46,000 rand increase is it's quicker to fill up your 500,000 now. It's not taking 13, 14 years anymore. It's only taking 10.8 years. What faulty alcoholic, man, but can we put you in contact with AA? Okay, hello says, good evening. I part of the GPF. I take 1/3, balance be invested by GPF. So yes, if you retire from the GPF, hello, indeed, 1/3 is paid out to you in cash. You don't have a choice. That is the rules of the GPF. 1/3 is paid out, irrespective of what that value is, whether it's 500,000, whether it's 5 million. You get your 1/3 in cash. The other 2/3 is indeed invested by the GPF, and that will give you an income that is determined. Now, the wonderful thing about GPF, and I know people don't like it when I say it, it works on a formula, and the formula determines the 1/3 capital as well as the monthly income. And why I say this is the beautiful thing about it, that formula is one of the best formulas that I've ever come across, because in almost 30 years of giving financial advice, I cannot give a client the same income benefits from their 2/3 if I had to transfer it from the GPF to a different place. I cannot give them the same income, the same guarantees, the same level of income, guarantees, increases like that. So GPF, to me, for people retiring there, is absolutely fantastic. So Tassie says, please explain what happens to the remainder of the funds in GPF if the person that invested dies. So first of all, if you pass away and you are married, Your spouse will receive a portion of the income for the rest of their lives. It's either 50% or 75%, and that's once again something that's determined upfront based on your choices when you go into retirement. So your spouse will earn that income for the rest of their lives. In the first 5 years after going into pension, so if you retire at age 63, for argument's sake, like some GPF institutions can, and you pass away 1 year later at 46, your spouse then gets 80% of a capital amount over and above the income they're going to receive. And that lump sum for the next 5 years, so if you pass away in year 1, your spouse gets 100% of a lump sum that's also predetermined. Year 2 it's 80%, year 3 it's 60%, year 4 it's 40%, year 5 it's 20%. Only year 6 there's no more cash lump sum. So there's a lump sum payable as well in the first 5 years. If your spouse does not survive you and you pass away but you have children, in the first 5 years those children earns those lump sums. If those children are underaged, 18 and younger, they will get the income that the spouse would have gotten. If the child can prove that they are a full-time scholar, they will get that income until the age of 21 or 24, I'm not 100% sure. If the child is disabled, they will keep on getting the income. So the important thing is, the person that passes away, their pension fund money never gets lost. It never goes to waste. It doesn't go back to the government like people say. The guaranteed formula on which it's based makes sure that if you had to not work on a formula and you could say, listen here, my actual pension fund is 3 million rand. The formula actually is calculated to the effect that if you do pass away, irrespective of when you pass away, what beneficiaries you leave behind, you will never get less than what was your total pension fund value. So I know people say, yeah, but if I pass away at year 6, I don't get the lump sum, I don't have a wife, yeah, the government takes everything. No. You have actually gotten everything. If you survive for 30 years, or you die in year 1 and your spouse gets that 100% plus, they get the income for the next 30 years. All it means is that you or your spouse has received much, much more than what you ever had invested in the GPF fund. Okay, Tassie, I thought I'd use the opportunity to jump on that soapbox quickly. Let's see what's next. Janine says, Brett, yes, tax is the death of us. Folks, it's not so. Okay, Skibber, but what happens if I put more than 46,000 per year into a tax-free savings account? So Skibber, if you put in more than 46,000 rand, even if it's 100 rand, if it's 46,100 rand, you are taxed 40% on that extra 100 rand. So every rand you put extra over and above 46,000, you are taxed at 40%. So the receiver says, I gave you this benefit, don't abuse it. Oh, you have abused it. You put in 50,000 rand instead of 46,000 rand. I'm going to penalize you with 40% on that extra 4,000 rand. So that's what happens. So you will see that when you invest with any company, they will normally ask you if you've got more than one tax-free investment, what your contributions is, and when you get to 46,000 with a company, they stop you. They say we won't take any more. So the companies normally have a system built in to protect you that you can't put in more than what the legislation actually allows. Leah, good evening, Leah 2279. Such convo we should prioritize, especially as the poor and the middle class. There is info divide. Yes, Leah, I agree. There is sometimes info divide, and it is unfortunately the way the world is. If you are wealthy, then people can afford to pay for services, and they can pay for, call it the best quality or the best knowledge services. And yes, maybe somebody that's earning much less and are in a very low or middle class income category can't afford to pay for the same services. At the same time, the services that I provide as a financial advisor, like what I'm doing here tonight, what I do on my social media videos, that's all free, gratis, and for nothing. And the majority of financial advisors out there do not ask any fees to consult with somebody. And over and above that, we have this new wonderful thing called AI these days, and companies competing, and so it is just that people that is maybe in a lower or a middle income category needs to put in a little bit of extra effort, but they can get exactly the same advice and education as somebody that's got a lot of money. It's just easier for the wealthy to buy this information than what it is for the poorer. But we have to take responsibility for our own actions and for what we want to know and understand in life. That is one thing that I keep on telling everybody. I have to take responsibility for my own personal actions. It is my responsibility to decide if I'm going to get angry at a car that turns in front of me, and if I'm going to scream and shout and swear at that person and make my own day terrible. It's my responsibility to either do that or to choose to say, shame, maybe that person is in a rush. It's okay, let them go. I've only lost a second. Tip says, so advice that a tax-free be a very aggressive approach. Tips, yes. I would say the intention with tax-free investments is long-term. And because it's long-term, I would say yes, absolutely. You should be invested in a very aggressive portfolio because the intention is long-term. It's very possible that somebody does that with the greatest of intentions, and then something happens and they have to access the funds. Well, it's one of those risks that we take in life. But once again, if you manage the situation with some financial advice, it should not bite you in the backside. T-Man, why would a financial advisor discourage aggressive portfolios for a child? The reason, no rush. Why would a financial advisor discourage aggressive portfolio for a child? The reason, no rush. Shocked. T-Man, my opinion about that is that some financial advisors are scared. That's my honest opinion. I think some financial advisors are scared. I have come across a lot of people. As a matter of fact, this week I said to somebody again that has 13 years to retirement, and two of their investments are very conservative, to the point where they're going to be lucky if they get 7 to 8% return on investment. And my opinion about that is that some financial advisors are scared that if they propose that somebody takes a very aggressive investment and something happens like has happened now with COVID and with the war, because that's when people panic. They look at their investment and today it's R1 million and tomorrow it's 600,000 rand, so they panic. So the first thing people want to do is they want to withdraw the money. And that's the worst thing you can do. So then people or financial advisors is scared that clients are going to do that, and the moment they're going to do that, they are going to lay a complaint against them with the ombudsman and say, look at what happened with my investment. My advisor said I should have been in that portfolio, and now my portfolio has lost 40%, and now I've withdrawn it, I've lost 400,000 rand. I am laying a complaint in the hopes that I'm going to get money out of this financial advisor. So I think that is what financial advisors are scared of. So if they put somebody into a low or medium risk portfolio, they know that there should be steady growth, and even if there is a market downturn or market crash, they don't have to worry about it. You as the client can never come back to them and say, hey, you've lost me money. That's my honest opinion. I think financial advisors are scared. They don't understand investments well enough to explain it to clients, and I also think that they do not know how to not only explain it to clients, but keep clients calm when we go into these periods when the market has such a substantial downturn. So that's my opinion. One should ask yourself seriously when you are dealing with an advisor that advises you to be low or medium risk on a very long time. Why? And I think one should really ask the advisor. Sometimes they've got very legitimate reasons, but my opinion is afraid. What happens when you do withdraw from tax-free savings, go back to reinvest again at a later stage? So for Cholofelo, if you withdraw, let's say you put in 46,000 Rand this year, okay, and let's say you withdraw it at the end of the year because you want to go on a lekker holiday, then all that means is that you're losing on that 46,000 Rand, you're losing all the growth that you could have gotten for the next 40, 50 years. That's number one. Number two, you cannot go and put that 46,000 Rand back. You can't catch up with it again. It means that if you start a new tax-free investment, you can now only put in 554,000 Rand. 454,000 Rand over your lifetime. Because the first 46,000 you've withdrawn and you've wasted it. And that's basically what happens. You can invest again, but you can't reinvest that 46,000. You can't catch up with it. And the other thing is, if you've done your investment in this financial year, you can't do that 46,000 Rand again in this financial year after you've withdrawn it. You have to wait for next year. So now you have to wait a few months before you can actually get your money to start working for you again. That is the whole story with why you should not withdraw the money. Let's see where we're going with this. Lots of people joining us. Thank you very much, folks. Lots of people popping in, and then they see this out talking about money and it's boring, and then they don't want to listen and they go again. Webster says, hi Corneille, moet jy 'n derde lomsom vat as jy aftrek? Kan mens nie kies om 100% te verdien as 'n salaris nie? Okay, Webster, I'm going to translate it into English just because that's the going language. Must you take 1/3 lump sum at retirement, or can you choose not to take that third and take 100% into a living or life annuity, is what you're basically saying, and earning an income? Yes, Webster, you can do that. You do not have to take the 1/3. It is my opinion, however, that one should consider taking the 1/3 or at least the tax-free portion. And the reason for that is, if you take the tax-free portion, just the tax-free portion, you can reinvest that into an income plan that is going to give you an income which is virtually tax-free. Number two, the money that remains, that 2/3 that remain, because it's a lower amount, it means you get a lower income. Because you're getting a lower income, you're paying lower taxes on that. Okay. And number three, because you've now got this 1/3 or this 550,000 Rand, over and above the fact that you can create an income that is virtually tax-free, you have also created a situation where you have some capital available as liquidity, whether it is going to be used for an emergency or maybe something else in the future. At least you have it. If you do not choose to draw 1/3 and the whole amount goes into income, that's it. You can never touch it again. You can't go back 5 years later and say, oh, made a mistake when I decided to do this 5 years ago. Please, can I now have my 1/3? Can't do that. So Webster, personal preference is not to use the full 3/3 for an income. I'm going to be honest with you. There are some people that sometimes when I talk to them are so bad with financial planning and discipline that I will advise them not to draw any cash and to actually use it as you've explained now, or as you asked now, for the total pension fund money. But I think that's the only time I will really do that, when I feel people are going to shoot themselves in the foot when they get that money and they're going to waste it. Enlightened Spirit says, best times to invest when the war's on. If you want to be a person that times the market, I suppose that's true. Although I won't advise that, because hopefully we're not going to have a war every year. So you might have to wait a few years until there's another war, and if you wait, you've lost out on a few years of growth. So yeah, I understand your reasoning. I just do not agree with it 100%. Anyway, guys, Jay, I got AIP from bank. OTP fell through. Suspensive clause, bad inspection. When can I apply? Jay, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what an AIP is. I know what an OTP is. I don't know what the suspensive clause is. I don't know what the bad inspection is. I don't know when you can apply again, because, mate, I do not work with bank and bank products. My comments and criticism with regards to banks is specifically aimed at savings accounts at banks. That's it. So I honestly cannot tell you, Jay. I have no idea what you're talking about here. I would recommend that you hopefully find a personal banker that can explain it to you, because I can't. Pleasure Webster, I'm glad that was of help to you, sir. Leah thinks what I told her earlier was very funny. It's not. It's true. Wow, food, etc. Hi, Corey. I have 2 RAs. When it will be the best time to put them together? Never. That's, I don't think you should put your 2 RAs together. Let me explain something quickly, folks. Is that very often people come into my office and they want to put all their investments together, because we have this thing that we think we're going to get much bigger growth if we've got one big investment instead of separate investments. Just think of it logically. Let's say you have 100,000 Rand investment on this side, one lump sum of 100,000 Rand. And on this side, you've got 5 20,000 Rand investments, or maybe even easier, 10,000 Rand investments, okay? So on your one side, if you get 10% growth on your 100,000 Rand, how much growth do you get? 10,000 Rand. If you get on your 10,000 Rand investments, 10% growth on each of these investments, how much do you get? You get 1,000 Rand on each of your 10,000 investments, because there's 10, you get 10,000 Rand growth. So irrespective of whether you've got one investment or 10 investments, if you get 10% growth, you get exactly the same on your lump sum as what you would get on the other one. That's a bunch of difference. Okay, so it's not necessary to put investments together. That's the first thing. With regards to retirement annuities you're talking about here, I feel exactly the same. You don't have to put them together. If you leave them separate, it gives you more flexibility at retirement, meaning that if one is a Sanlam and the other one is an Old Mutual, maybe you need some money at the age of 55 and you want to retire from one because you're going to access that money and take a small income. But then you only have to access the one. You can leave the other one with the other company and let it keep on growing. You can still contribute, whatever. So it allows you more flexibility if you do have these 2 retirement annuities. Now, if you get to retirement and you are ready to retire from both retirement annuities, and you've done the planning and you've decided a life annuity is going to work for you, or living annuity is going to work for you, and all the money is needed for that specific product, then that's a good time to actually put it together when you go into the actual retirement. But up until then, I won't do it. The only time I will put my retirement annuities together before my option dates, so to speak, the only time I would do that is when I'm not satisfied with the growth. And it can be proven to me that the RA with company A is only giving me 5% growth for argument's sake, but the RA with company B is giving me 10%, and I can see that it's going to benefit me to have the 2 RAs together with the company that's giving me the 10%. Can't see that? Don't do it. Not necessary. Mr. X says, cost of delay is the real thing. Absolutely 100%. Cannot agree with you more. Crazy bold. For someone who resigned in 2023 from GPF, I hope the 2-pot system doesn't affect them. No. Don't worry about the 2-pot system. The 2-pot system affects nobody if you don't draw money from it. Okay. The only time the 2-pot system affects anybody is if you decide to make a withdrawal from your pension, provident or retirement annuity fund, irrespective of where it is. And again, I will say it again and again and again and again and over and over and over and over. If you draw from your 2-pot system, you are making the biggest mistake of your life. Just don't touch the money. As long as you don't touch it, doesn't affect you. Leave it for retirement. That's what it's supposed to be for. Leah says, is the current time for the borrower or the investor? Leah, I'm going to ask you, is there ever a time for a borrower? My opinion is no. The moment you borrow money, I don't care whether the interest rate is 1% or whether the interest rate is 31%. You have to pay money back to somebody and you have to pay interest. So there is never a good time for a borrower. There is no calculator, financial discipline, anything that makes sense that says, listen here, it's a good time to go and lend money, to go and borrow money. And when is a good time for an investor? Always. Every day of your life, if you can put something away, it is good because it is some provision for somewhere into the future. Sometime in the future, you're going to need it. And if you don't need it into the future, what it does is it buys you time. Oh, it's such a wonderful thing. The happiest people in the world are the people that has got a retirement age in mind of say 65. But they get to 45, 50, 55, 60, whatever the case might be, and they've already got enough assets, capital and investments that they can say, I can actually retire if I want now. They don't. They carry on because they know the importance of keeping your mind and body healthy, and most of the time they enjoy what they do. So they can, but they don't. But that is the most important thing, is if you invest consistently and you can stop working earlier, you've bought yourself time, you've bought yourself peace of mind. It's unbeatable. So Leah, no time is a good time for a borrower, but every minute is a good time for an investor. Leah keeps on laughing every time I answer a question. So I'm wondering if Leah, as a financial advisor, that actually thinks I'm talking nonsense. Good evening, Tech Tacto. Nice to see you back here. Let's see. Charlene. Hi, good evening to see you as well, Charlene. If you take the 1/3 from your RA tax-free, which income plan can be used? So, Charlene, it's going to depend on a number of different factors. Living annuities, life annuities, combination of them. It's all going to depend on you as the individual in terms of how much you need as an income. What type of increases do you need? What type of guarantees do you need? Do you have financial dependence? Do you have to leave capital behind for people or an income behind for people? So it all depends on your personal circumstances at the day of retirement. So then one will decide at that point when the planning is done, what type of income plan would be best for you? Like I say, living annuity, life annuity, or combination hybrid. And only once you've done that, really, can you decide on the company you're going to do it through. So there's no one size fits all, Shalene. It really depends on every individual person what's going to work best for them and specifically what their need is. Okay. Gee, I'm sitting here and I'm talking to you guys, and for some or other reason my WhatsApps are going crazy. Mr. X, as a financial advisor, you are not talking nonsense. Gee, I'm glad to hear that. Wow, thank you. So what you're saying is all these years of experience that I've got eventually has counted for something. Thank you, Mr. X. And if you are a financial advisor, I like to comment. And I need new financial advisors, or I need more financial advisors. Okay, our company needs more people, so contact me. Come and have a coffee with me, Mr. X. Okay, Jen, best advice for expat moving back to SA in a year, investment wise, will earn my way less in SA. Okay. So Jen, best advice for expat moving back to SA. So the first thing I would say is obviously you're going to have to sit down and plan for yourself what you're going to need when you are back in South Africa. And when I say what you're going to need when you're back in South Africa, expense-wise, budget-wise, you're going to have to budget. You're going to have to sit down and calculate, I need a car, I need a house to rent or to buy, I need groceries, I need a medical aid, I need whatever the case might be. So the first thing is do a budget, get an idea of what you're going to need. Second thing is try and fit that budget into whatever income it is that you're going to be earning in South Africa. Because You don't want to be in a situation that any assets or investments that you've built up so far needs to be used before you really need it, meaning either before retirement or sometime in the future that you have set your mind on something specific. So that's the second thing. And then thirdly, if you have built up investments internationally, don't be hasty in moving it back to South Africa. Preferably, keep them invested internationally until you've done some proper investment planning and you understand the implications on your estate and your taxes with regards to your investments. Once you understand that, you can make a very good and informed decision on whether you're going to move that money back. So that would be my 3-step plan for you. I'm sure if you follow that, you should be okay. And Jen, if you've lived in the UK, you most probably lived in a flat this small, okay? If you've lived in Australia or New Zealand, you most probably did not have a domestic worker and you had to do all your laundry and everything yourself. So take those things that was not so good in other countries as it normally is in South Africa, take it on board as part of your planning. And I almost want to say, try and live within those same means, because if you lived in a small flat in London, where you could barely move around, you most probably paid 30,000 Rand a month for it in South African rands, and if you have the same figure South Africa, it's going to cost you 3,000 Rand, which is a very nice thing because you could actually live much more comfortable here and much better financially than what you would have been there. And if you are willing to continue doing your own laundry, for example, and stuff like that, you're already helping yourself financially. In any case, that's it, Jen. Oh, okay, Leah, thank you very much. I just made a joke there. I just thought it was funny to see all the laughs every now and again. Enlightened Spirit, Leah was laughing because I said when war is on his best time to invest, it was before you. Yes. Tic Tac Toe is correct. What is the average percentage an investor take from a client per month? Oh, an advisor. Okay. What is the average percentage an advisor take from a client per month or per year? Mate, I'll tell you what I take, okay? Because I don't know if I'm the average guy. I take, depending on the investment and negotiations with the client, I will take a 1% upfront advice fee, because initially there's a hell of a lot of work and planning and everything that goes in. So lots of work, lots of time, lots of effort. And then I take an ongoing 0.5% fee for the management of the portfolio for the client. So that's me. But I do know that there are lots of advisors that take 3.5% upfront and they take a full 1%. I also know there's a lot of advisors that only take 0.25%. So there is no real average, that I can tell you. I have not heard of two advisors really asking the same fees. And then a new thing in South Africa, which is becoming very, very prominent and what's the nice word? Well, it's becoming something that people like to do, is where people pay a set fee for financial advice instead of paying commission or annual fees from their investments. And I know specifically a couple of companies where the advisors charges, depending on what they have to do for the client, either 50,000 Rand or 75,000 Rand per year. Then you pay them that amount and then they do everything from the financial perspective for you. All the planning, all the paperwork, all the admin, everything that needs to be done, they pay, but then you pay them upfront that amount. So, very difficult to give you a straightforward answer. Sandy, how's it, my man? What is the difference between disability cover and critical illness cover? So, Sandy, critical illness cover is these days, no, wait, hang on a second. Critical, oh, I almost got it wrong. Okay. Critical illness cover these days are referred to more often as severe illness cover. So that is your heart attacks, your cancers, your strokes, full-blown AIDS, and coronary artery disease. Those are basically the big five. But there are others. Alzheimer's is there these days, being bedridden, etc., etc. So basically, really serious illnesses are considered severe illnesses, and that used to be called critical illnesses in the past. Also used to be called dread disease cover. Disability cover is where if you cannot work, if you cannot perform your duties of your occupation anymore due to sickness, accident, or any other reason, then you are considered disabled to work, and then that cover kicks in. So I've got a client now that has just, and I'm not going to name his name, and even if he's listening, I don't think he will mind that I mention it. I've got a client now that's in the car industry. He's always repaired cars and all kinds of things. And he, he's just been diagnosed with a severe arthritis. And he's been declared disabled, and his disability cover is paid out. So, no, it is a sickness. Arthritis is a sickness, but he is being paid out under disability. So, there is that distinct difference, and very often it overlaps. Because you can get cancer, for example, and become so severe that you can't work because of it anymore. Then you can qualify first for the critical illness or severe illness, and then after that you become disabled. So that's how it works. Nice speaking to you again, Sandy. Lynn Abram says, I want an RA, but I want all the money on retirement. What do you suggest? Need a tax-free savings? Which company? So Lynn Abrams, you can't have a retirement annuity and take all the money at retirement. It's just the way it is. That is what the law says. That is what the rule says. Okay? So, if you want a retirement annuity, make peace that you can take 1/3 at retirement and 2/3 as monthly income. If you don't like that, then don't do it. It's easy as that. Tax-free investment, yes, I keep on saying that's a good thing. And there's a lot of companies, Old Mutual, Sanlam, Allan Gray, Investec, 91, Marriott, Liberty, Discovery, lots of companies that can give you tax-free investment. The thing with the retirement annuity is people understand that they're going to get 1/3 at retirement and 2/3 as income, but they understand and they want it for the tax rebates that they get on a yearly basis. So if you do not want to live by those rules, take an endowment. Okay, get yourself an endowment or unit trust, depending on what your personal tax situation is, and accept the fact that now you can take everything at retirement, but you're not going to get the tax rebates on an annual basis. That is literally as easy as that. Time is almost done for this live stream. Indeed it is. As a matter of fact, I see I'm 1 minute over. Okay, so I'll quickly answer the rest of the questions very quickly, and then I'll go. I feel I owe you a couple of minutes because I was 2 minutes late tonight. Mr. X says, you educate well. People do not learn these things in school. Therefore, it's important that we teach. It is indeed, Mr. X, and I just spoke to this, or I answered somebody earlier saying that what I want to do is I want to create courses for children where we can teach children this, where I can offer it to children in schools, not as part of the school curriculum, but anything. And I've actually got one course already done. I just need to do all the fancy stuff about it, you know. But yeah, that's what I would like to do. That is what I would like to give to children, and I think that will be fantastic if one can get it going. Bart says, I work out of the country and only earn dollars. Fantastic. How will they work out my tax for the RA I contribute to? So Bart, here's the thing. If you are working outside of South Africa, you most probably in a country where there's a dual taxation situation. Okay, if you are, you're paying tax in that country, and you're only paying tax in South Africa if you're earning more than 1.25 million rand. Then you might not even owe tax if the taxes are taken right there. So your contributions to your retirement annuity in South Africa, as you are not paying tax here, are not used as a tax deductibility at this stage. Okay, so you're not getting the tax rebate on your retirement annuity contributions. Because you're not getting the retirement annuity contribution rebate, it all rolls over from year to year until retirement. So every contribution you're making that you are not deducting at the moment, okay, every one of those contributions gets added onto your 1/3 at retirement. So instead of getting 550,000 tax-free at retirement, you will now get 550 tax-free plus all the contributions that you could not deduct from tax on a yearly basis. So if you get to retirement and your retirement annuity is worth 3 million rand and you can draw 1 million rand, and you've got 1 million rand, if you've got 450,000 rand of contributions that was never taken into consideration for rebate, that gets added onto your 550,000 rand. Now you get 1 million rand tax free. Let's say it was even more. Let's say that your 1/3 is still 1 million rand, but if we add those contributions to the 550,000, it's actually 1,500,000 rand that qualifies for tax free portion. You will get 1 million rand tax free. You will start earning an income from the 2 million rand, and on the first 500,000 rand worth of income that you earn, there will also be no taxes. Okay, so there is no calculation around your retirement annuity in terms of contributions. You are either, well, not either, you are not getting the tax rebate because you are not being taxed in South Africa. I trust I've got it right, Bart, because that's 99% of the people that I work with that are expats are working in countries where there's either this dual taxation thing or tax-free havens. So I'm sure yours is going to be the same, but if I've got it wrong, Bart, you're welcome to send me a WhatsApp on my WhatsApp number, and I will get you, I will answer you accordingly if I was wrong. I work 2 months on and 3 weeks off in SA. Yeah, no, I'm with you, but still you are being taxed in the country where you are operating, eh? That's how it works with that. If you are being taxed in South Africa, Bart, if the income, okay, so you're working offshore, it's very possible that you're working offshore for a local company or company where your income and your pay slip and everything is being seen as a South African income. So it's seen as a South African income, but you are being paid in dollars. That's also possible. So you're still earning in South Africa, you're going to pay tax in South Africa, but in dollars. So what's going to happen now is, let's say for argument's sake, you earn dollars equal to 100,000 rand per month, and you want to contribute the maximum of 27.5%. You can say, I want to contribute 27,500 rand. But now what happens is, because of the rand dollar exchange rate, it goes up and down, up and down, up and down. Your retirement annuity will be fixed on the premium that you want to contribute. But this month you might earn 110,000 rand because of the rand dollar exchange rate being in your favor. Next month you only earn 90,000 rand because it's not in your favor anymore. So what will happen now is you will just keep on contributing the same amount to your RA, and at the end of the year, when that tax returns are done to SARS, the tax certificate that the insurer sends to SARS will then say, okay, you contributed X amount for the year. They then go and check and they say, okay, you've contributed 27.5%, 100%, we're giving the full discount or the full rebate, or you've contributed less, still getting the full rebate, or you've contributed a little bit more. You've now contributed 30% inadvertently because of this rand dollar exchange rate that changes all the time. So now that difference, that extra 2.5%, once again just rolls over to the next year, and the next year, and the next year if you don't use it until retirement. Exactly the same as the explanation I just gave you 5 minutes ago or 3 minutes ago. Okay, folks, I really need to finish, but Bart, that was a very interesting question. I haven't had one of those. Tip says, is Signal legit? Short answer, yes. They've got good funds, legit company, very, very good portfolios. Sandy, thank you. Pleasure, Sandy. Anytime, Mr. X. With the harsh reality, most people cannot retire. It's important to start young. Absolutely, cannot agree with you more, Mr. X. No tax in the country you work in. Got you there, Bart. That answer I've given you should cover both sides. Jabs, hi Corey, advice on how to best invest 3 million lump sum for growth and get a monthly salary out of it. Jabs, even if I wanted to give you a quick answer, I can't. Contact me on the WhatsApp number in my profile. I'll set up an appointment with you, or one of my advisors will do a proper planning session for you, and then we give you proper advice and recommendations. Only way to do it, mate. Cannot do it on a platform like this. Just cannot. Where else? Okay, folks, I think I am through everything, and I do thank you all. I ran a few minutes over, but like I say, I think I owed you a couple of minutes. But as per usual, it was absolutely fun. I really enjoyed it. And please, next week Thursday, we do it again. You're welcome to come and join. Get some of your mates to join. Let's see if we can educate South Africa when it comes to financial advice. You are really welcome to let more people come. And yeah, thank you once again. I really enjoy it. It's one of the fun things I like doing every week. You have a good evening, folks. All the best. Keep well. Bye-bye.